It's time for book banter on Coffee on the Coast. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Coffee on the Coast. I'm your host today, Tina Therese. I'm so happy to be joined by Therese Horstgetter from the award-winning Manitowoc Public Library because, Therese, it's that day of the month where we get to have book banter. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, always glad to be here.
So, I have to tell you, a couple of shows ago, this must be a couple of months because I know my book was on hold for a while. You recommended a book called Under the Whispering Door, and it
Oh, yeah.
sounded so intriguing. I finally got a chance to listen to it, and you were absolutely right. It was a great recommendation, so enjoyable, a really fresh take. The plot was, I
Yeah.
couldn't predict it. It was unexpected.
Yep.
And I just had to let you know I really enjoyed that. And so I'm super excited about what we're going to talk about today.
Oh, that was really a good book. And I have to say, even, we're the library, but when I was in a bookstore that I won't name, they did have it highlighted there after I read it. And the person who wrote it actually has another book that they wrote before that one that they had highlighted. I have that one on hold right now, so I'm looking forward to reading that one as well.
Awesome. You'll have to let
Yep.
us know. You'll have to
Yeah.
let us know. So let's talk about, it is, we call it like there was winter, then there was fool's spring and winter again, and then spring of deception. And now it seems like we're maybe back into winter.
Yeah, I think it's a little of everything this week.
But to me, it's the perfect weather to be able to grab a book and to just, adventure somewhere else while
Yeah.
this is all raging outside. So I'm going to pull up the first three that we're going to talk about. Let's
Okay.
work left to right and tell us about The Midnight Hour
Okay.
by Abby Vendiver.
Right. And she is the editor. This is a book that is an anthology, 20 different writers that contributed to it. And as the cover says, a chilling anthology of crime fiction from 20 authors of color. So really the description of the short stories that are, I believe it's said, they'll keep you on the edge of your seat. And I've read so far 2 of the stories in there, and I really, really enjoyed them.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. So these are
So,
short stories by 20
yes,
totally different authors.
which are kind of really great sometimes when you need a break between books or you feel like reading, but you just don't have the time to put to something that's going to keep you either up later than you want, that you can't stop reading, or just a little break with what you're reading. And yeah, so I think this will be liked by a lot of people.
Nice. Are these well-known authors? Are these relatively new authors?
I
And
think it is more unknown to me anyway.
okay.
I did look up Abby Van Diver, the one who edits the book, and she has one story in there, and I don't see any other um, anything else in print by her. And I didn't look up all of the authors, but I thought, well, since she was the main one that edited it excuse me, as well, that maybe she had other things, but I don't see any at this time.
Okay. And so you haven't read them all yet. So I'm wondering though, and maybe you don't know because you haven't read them all yet, if there's a connection between the stories. Are they related in some way or are they all independent
I
standalone?
I think they are all meant to be short and a little. The first one that I read was a man who is being harassed by people coming into his home, and what actually happens that you wouldn't expect. And so it is a little on the edge of your seat and done, kind of thing. So yeah, I think they're going to be good stories. And
Okay,
I
that's
can't
awesome.
say a connection, but just that general feel with them.
Are they relatively new releases or are they
This one, well, this is a new book with us. So I'm thinking that, even if they had these published in magazines or anything, it's still pretty fresh writing.
okay, very cool.
Mhm.
So would you say like contemporary?
Yes, definitely. Well, at least a couple that I read.
All right. All right, fantastic. Yeah. And at the top of the book, in case you can't see viewers, it says simply extraordinary. So it sounds like a pretty good, chilling anthology, too. So does it leave you, scared to look under the bed, that type of chilling,
No, they
or?
said edge of your seat. So
Okay.
maybe don't read it in bed.
Awesome. Well, then let's talk about this one, Foreverland by Heather Havraleski. And it says, on the divine tedium of marriage. I'm interested by that mashup of divine and also tedium.
Yes.
I wouldn't necessarily think of those words together.
And, I always do a little write up here to glance at. And I have written down somewhat vicious, dark humored, emotional, and touching. It runs the gamut of everything. The author, I haven't read the whole book. I'm reading this one also, and she starts out with a rather. I'm a really happily married woman, but I can find the humor in her writing. But it is also rather. I can see someone picking up and just saying, it's a little. Her beginning says every book about marriage is also a book about mortality, since the success of any marriage is defined not by happiness or good fortune, but by death. Because we say we are together until we die. And so when one spouse perishes, you've completed happily, or you've completed your marriage vows. So that could be very off turning, but it also was like, where's she going from here? Because it's, a few 100-page book. So it's not like that can be the only thing she's going to say. But she does go through marriage, childbirth, and like I said, I skipped to the end at one point just in case I didn't get to read it. And I thought it rounds out very nicely. And she is not against everything. It is just the way that she functions. Like, she's surprised her husband's looking like he's happy to see her, and this is on their wedding day. And she said, he actually looks happy. I, you know, and so she has a very different way. And actually, the cover is what caught my eye. Just the picture in between all of the other things that were out there, and that's why I picked it up, to tell you the truth. But I have enjoyed just kind of skimming through certain chapters at this point and reading it. It's very interesting. It's got some dark humor, but it's got just some plain old humor that, yeah, it's.
Okay, two questions. So you mentioned the cover art, which is lovely, but it
Yes.
also seems like it's from a certain era. Is the book
Yes.
kind of centered in that era?
That I would say is somewhat more current than that, just by what she talks about with their wedding taking place and things. That there are some parts I may have skipped to be very definite on times, but in general, I would say more current, definitely.
Okay, cool. And then the second question is, I know, Therese, that you enjoy, thrillers and chillers
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and suspenseful. Is this on that spectrum, or is this an outlier?
This is just talking about life from one person's perspective. And, she's like, how do I want to say it? She seems very, very tough. But after a whole bad time during a pregnancy, and with people telling her, oh, you're doing this wrong or that wrong and that wrong, and she's having a really bad day and fighting all these things. And then it takes her husband to say, are you okay? And she just breaks down sobbing, so it is, I think, what a lot of us have probably gone through in, relationships or different things. And she just starts out, I think part of her is she starts out strong, but still needs that base hug or the person to say the good thing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
who doesn't? Aren't we all like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So that is Foreverland by Heather Havraleski. Okay. How about Find You First, a novel by Linwood Barclay? And there's a quote by Stephen King on the front, and it says, starts with a bang and ends with an even bigger one. It's the best book of his career. I couldn't put it down. And knowing that Stephen King said that really makes me
Yeah.
intrigued by this book.
Yep. So I'm 3/4 of the way through it. So I get to wait for that big bang at the end yet. But it started out with one, definitely, and it has been just moving. It starts out with there is a young man, and he's on the phone scamming an elderly woman, where he calls and says, "Grandma, I need your help." And she says, "Eddie," like, thinking it's a grandson, and that's definitely not who's calling her. And he's asking for money, that he's in the police station and he can't call his dad and whatever. So she's getting ready. How can she help him? And there's a knock at his door, and it's police. And so he's like, "Well, how can they be here?" And he's shutting down his computer, like, did he call the wrong person or what? And um, the police that are there are not there for the reason you think. And I can't say what it is or what happens. It goes on from there. It ends up involving, um, well, I guess genetics, and a really good rich man, a really nasty rich man. It involves a whole lot of things. It is just a really good book that just keeps adding more and more at this point. And so we don't really know who some of these people should be associated with or not. And yeah, I see my friend Kelly's on saying she liked the book. Yeah, it is. I can't wait to finish it. It's a good sized book, but yeah, I'm hoping tonight is my finishing night. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, well, you'll have to follow up and let us know. You'll have to post
Yeah.
on here. So it sounds like it's a book that kind of pulls you along. It keeps you
Yep.
going.
Oh, definitely.
And
Definitely. Cruises.
the
Yes.
fact that it's recommended by Stephen King and the way you've described the setup, pretty much of a thriller, suspenseful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It just keeps going, and you keep wondering, you think you kind of have it figured out, and then there was a big change that I didn't expect, but yep, it is just moving.
Oh, that sounds like a great recommendation. And Kelly, thanks for writing in that you've read it and also give it a thumbs up. Cool. All right, moving on, Therese. Let's talk about now. This seems like a complete 180 from where we just were. This is the
Yes.
best state ever. A Florida Man Defends His Homeland by Dave Barry. And Dave Barry's a comedian, right? Isn't he kind of
Yes,
like okay.
definitely. And he's had nonfiction books like this before, that are about a specific issue, I guess, or a subject, and Florida being his, as he calls it, his homeland. So he just is making a lot of fun of Florida, but he's sharing some fun information at the same time. And yeah, there are a lot of good things. The one chapter I was just looking at before we were getting ready to go, called Gatorland, and he talks about you can go to see gators. It's watching gators sit for about 4 hours, but it is the second largest tourist thing in Florida, and you're just watching these animals laying there supposedly being scary. And then he goes on to elderly living areas with golf carts, and you're not allowed to do this and that, but you can decorate your golf cart with thousands of dollars worth of stuff. And it's just him. If you like Dave Barry, it's one I hadn't seen before. And so I just thought I would throw it in. And I think you either like Dave Barry's humor or you don't. He wrote the book Big Trouble years ago, which I loved, and they made a movie out of it. And I just like his humor overall. So I decided to throw that one in this time.
And I feel like a book like this is probably a great diversion in between. You can't
Yep.
just live on suspense and thriller. You kind of need to like clear the palate.
I could for quite a while, but every so often you need a break.
And talking about cover art too, look closely at this cover. It's so interesting. Look at the little man by the word Ian State. He's like running,
Mhm.
and there's an orange in front of him. He's streaking by, and there's a
Yeah.
gorilla going, ah, Florida.
Yep. It is. It's just a fun book, and yeah. Yep.
All right.
Just one I missed along the way. So that was nice.
Nice. All right. Well, let's move on to Mouth by Antoine Wilson.
Mouth to Mouth it is basically two men running into each other at an airport as they're waiting for their next flight. And the one is an art dealer, and the other one is a writer. And so the art dealer is named Jeff. And it turns out that years ago, Jeff rescued someone that was drowning on a beach or in the water by the beach. And he never told anybody about it. And he found out what the man's name was, but it's like the paramedics didn't care to share any information with him. He never got a follow-up that this person survived completely. And so he looked things up on his own, and it's what follows through in his life. He ends up telling this whole story to his friend from school, that they really didn't know each other that well, more so in a, you know, I know you in a group of people kind of way. And so he listens to this story, and he is narrating the book about with the other man telling him his story, and it goes through up till just in the past year or two with what took place following this. And so there's something unique about the narrator, and I won't say anything. We can discuss that maybe next time. And it has one of those kind of little endings to it, like didn't quite see that coming thing. And yeah, but it's yeah, how this man actually does live his next few years and becomes a successful art dealer, um, has to do with the person that he saved. So
This
yes.
is intriguing, Therese. What genre is this book?
I think it is. I think it was probably just listed as fiction, because it's not so much a mystery, because he's telling this whole story from beginning to end through the book. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it was just good. It was different. It was really different.
It's interesting because on the cover it says, this powerful, intoxicating book's greatest tension is that we have no idea where it is heading.
Hmm. Yeah, you really don't know how far he's going to get as he goes through these parts of his life.
I'm super intrigued. I'm definitely
Yeah.
adding that one to the list. Thanks,
Yep.
Therese. Okay, we've got one more left, and this one
Okay.
is called Wish You Were Gone by Kieran Scott. The cover says it's a captivating thriller full of twists and surprises. I couldn't put it down. Do you agree?
Yeah, it was a good book. It starts out with there are three women involved. Emma is the central one, and her husband, they have this marriage that is, um, on the outside looks good. People think it's a happy, great family, but on the inside there are definitely opposites to that. And she has a couple of children. Her friend Gray um, also has a daughter, and read a little bit ago, and I don't have all the characters' names written down. And then there's Lizzie. And so the three of them, actually, Gray and Lizzie don't get along great, but the three of them still manage to be friends. And so Lizzie is a single mom. Kids all kind of go to school together, or at least aware of each other if they don't hang out together. And Emma's husband and the friend of his, which is Gray's husband, work together, and they have a very successful business. They are ex pro football players. And Emma's husband is mean to his family and drinks heavily. And the start of the book is that there's a huge crash during the night, and here he has driven through their garage, crashed, and he is dead in his car, which is how the book starts out. And it's basically in the blurb. So now we go from here to find out what happened on this evening, what has been happening, as these lives are discussed, that you find out more and more about everybody. And it's not all bad, it's not all good, but just some big twists in there that you find out along the way. And yeah, it was just very good right till the end.
Nice. So it's
Yeah.
called Wish You Were Gone. Is
Yes.
he the you in that Wish You Were Gone title? Or is
I
that
think I know every time I was writing it down, I was writing "Wish you were here" because you hear that so much, and then it's like I have to get it right when I send it. And but yeah, so I think it is just that yeah, this is not what we need in our lives, but also I think when you have someone that's kind of prominent in with friends and their business together, all of that involved, that I think it just came to that point, unfortunately, that took care of some of their problems. So now
Mm.
you have to find out what happened and was somebody else involved, and to have him, have an accident like that.
Was it maybe
So
not as accidental as it seems?
yeah,
Okay,
no,
gotcha.
yeah,
All right, so that is Wish You Were Gone by Kieran Scott. Therese, so many excellent recommendations. And
I know.
also a couple of episodes ago, you had recommended a book called Such a Quiet Place, and I had a chance to read that one too. Super interesting. And
Yeah.
it sets you up to believe one thing has happened, but it
Mhm.
almost seems too perfect, right? And so
Yeah.
there's this twist in the end that I just
Yep.
didn't predict.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time
Oh,
to give
sure.
us these great recommendations. Viewers, if you've had a chance to read any of the books that Therese has been recommending to us this past, wow, it must be already a year that we've been doing book banter, right, Therese?
Yeah, it's been a while,
Yeah, we'd love to
and it's
hear
been
and
fun.
share in the post. Yeah, and or if you've got any recommendations that you want to share with us, please do. We'd love to know what you're reading.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's fun to share.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Therese, thanks so much. Thanks for taking the time to come on Coffee on the Coast. We really
Oh,
appreciate
happy
it.
to.
I'm already looking forward to next time.
Me too.
All right, keep turning those pages. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.
Bye.